Hello people, this is question time from last night, which would have been the 18th of May. Let's get on with the first question.
Which comes from Jason Dyer, please. Jason Dyer.
Thank you, David. I'd like to know, ask the panel, after paying taxes all your working life, do you think it is fair that you have to sell your family home to pay for the care?
Do you?
Well, the simple answer to that is no, it ain't fair. But then, if you've got people who's got houses worth, personally, I don't think there's loads of people across the country that's got houses worth over 300, 400,000 pounds. But at the end of the day, Tories has stabbed themselves in the foot with, starting to take away from their voting base. There's going to be a lot of old people now that's going to be thinking twice about voting for them now. So it wouldn't surprise me if May makes a U-turn on that, or tries to water it down for the election, and once they win, she'd just bang it straight back up to the to what they want to do. Why is the Tory party doing this? Because they've realised, I think at the heart of the Tory party now, they've realised that the fact that they've had a ban on tax rises for the last 7 years has been a disaster. Not just, it's been a disaster across the field for the party itself and for the country. The whole point of the cuts was to pay the debt down. The debt has doubled, and now the Tory party is trying to find ways of trying to cut more. Even though cuts hasn't worked the past 7 years, they're still looking in a blind way of looking for more cuts, because that's what it is. It's essentially a cut on old people. For the past 7 years under Dave Cameron, he's been protecting the old people, but he's been cutting public services, council budgets has been slashed, and all that has a knock-on effect to everyone, including the old people. Probably actually cuts to local councils probably affects older people more than anyone else. So in one hand, the Tories kept the old people happy with their bus pass and their winter allowance and all that stuff, but then on the other hand, from the local councils, they took a lot of money out of it, which has affected the old people, but that's hidden away within the system, so they gets away with it. But yeah, I don't think this is a tax in it. At the end of the day, it's a tax. It doesn't have to be that way. The Tory party is choosing it to be that way, just like they chose to do the massive cuts that they've done in the past 7 years. I'll move on to the next question now, because, like, at the end of the day, it was a fairly simple question. So question number 2.
To the issue, if I have time, about foreign aid, but let's take this question from Emily Petch, please. Emily.
Is Jeremy Corbyn credible enough to lead Brexit negotiations?
I do apologise, you're going to get a bit of a loop on the questions because I forgot to lower the mic down again. Yet again, the question time has to put another. It's a clever way of doing it. It's not a negative question, but it could be perceived as, oh look, Jeremy's useless, he can't do it. It's just question time. You could tell that this programme has got a team behind it that is all Tory party. Even though this particular show was very difficult for them to really twist it towards the right and make the right look brilliant, they found it very difficult in this programme. Can any leader? You can apply that to all leaders. If you're going to be fair, the question should have that about all leaders. That type of question should be applied to all the leaders. Based on the Tory party and their credibility on the economy. Come on, you're having a laugh. How can you just totally ignore the fact that the Tory party's main policy for the last 6-7 years has been getting the debt down, and they've doubled the debt? How is that credible, for God's sake? It just blows my mind. How can people still think the Tory party is credible when their main policy, they haven't they haven't won on. They haven't done what they said they would do. So when they go on about their credibility on spending, it's a disaster. It's an absolutely disaster. As for Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party as a whole, they said back in 2010 the Tories' plan of cuts to pay the debt down would never work, and it hasn't. So the Labour Party has been proven right now. The downside is obviously Jeremy Corbyn, half the right-wing party don't like him because they don't want tax to go up on their own earnings. So that's partly why Jeremy's got a lot of knives in his back from his own right-wing part of the party. But yeah, if anything, I think Jeremy Corbyn would be great for the country because he would stand up to the wealthy companies and says, well, go on then, I dare you, take the jobs away. I think Jeremy would stand firm and say, well, go on then, you take those jobs away. Don't expect you could just come back and just make loads of money. So I think Jeremy can. I think Jeremy would go to Europe in a fair, constructive way, and, you know, he wouldn't threaten Europe like May's already done several times. First with the letter saying that we'll withdraw our help in fighting terrorism, and then the other day she went on about, oh, stop interfering with our election, and that was so bad. If you want to get a deal from a place, you don't start saying they're interfering in internal matters. But yeah, I think Jeremy Corbyn can myself, and it's only the media that's making it difficult for Jeremy Corbyn. Obviously, also I've got to add half of his party. I had someone from Labour come through. I said how I felt about the right wing element and how they all walked out on Jeremy Corbyn and they all walked back into their jobs. And they all should have resigned. They all should have walked, but they didn't. So they're not honourable people, are they? Half of them. But yeah, overall, I think Jeremy Corbyn can do a great deal for the UK because they're focusing on the economy and jobs, and those two things will mean that we will still have to have some things from the EU. But what's more important? You know, jobs or immigration. If we lose jobs, oh well, yeah, but we could turn around and say, well, we got less people in the country. People ain't got no money. So, you know, yeah, I think Jeremy could do a great job on that. I just think there's a lot of propaganda flying around about Jeremy on a personal issue to try and stop people voting for him, because a lot of people tend to vote on who they like, not policies. I've heard plenty of people, oh well, I agree with Jeremy Corbyn's policies, but I don't like him as a person. That is just as ridiculous as saying, oh, I hate Theresa May's policies, but I love her as a person, so I'm going to vote for her. That just blows my mind. I'm not an intelligent person, but Jesus, come on, people. Right, here we go. I'll move on to question number 3 now. Oh, let's just turn them on.
We come back to the issue that was raised a moment ago, and it's a question from Gordon Jones. I think we can take that. We won't just take the key issue in it, Gordon, can you?
Thank you, David. The thing what gets me about the Conservative Party at the moment, they're carried on from Cameron's 0.7% of GP, and why?
0.7%, you're talking about foreign aid?
Yes,
yeah.
Sorry.
Right, so the foreign aid budget is 0.7%. That's tiny, people. I'm sorry, that is tiny. And the thing that really gets me about it is the only reason people's thinking about it now is because the Tory party has done really nasty cuts for the past 7 years. They've taken from the working poor and the poor on benefits massively, and now that group is desperate, so it's like, well, where can we get more money? Oh, well, why are we giving money to other poor countries? it's the Tory loves this kind of talk because it plays right into their narrative of greed and selfishness. We should start taking that money for ourselves. Well, no, because even if we did as a Tory party, the Tory party won't spend it on what it needs to. They hate public services. They hate welfare. They won't put the money into that, and they definitely won't put it into the NHS. So, I believe in the foreign aid to help other poor countries. Really, we should also be doing that within our own country, looking after the people who are struggling. There's people working. There's more people working and getting tax credits than there actually is unemployed people not working. So I don't agree with this. Oh, let's take from even poorer people so we don't get poor. No, it shouldn't be like that. It's the Tories' ideology of getting people to look lower instead of looking up. Everyone in this country needs to start looking upwards and seeing what they're getting upwards instead of keep listening to them up the top to look down and keep going down and seeing what we can take from the poor. That's the reality of it, and it really annoys me. So no, I wish people would just stop talking about that, because at the end of the day, 0.7% out of a country of our size, which was 5th biggest country, is tiny people. And and I'm sorry, but that Paul Nuttall on the ITV programme mentioned about, America does a smaller proportion. Yeah, but America's 10 times bigger than us. So they still spend a hell of a lot more money because they're so much bigger, so their budgets are a lot bigger. But I don't agree with cutting it, because all we end up doing is not pushing poorer countries out of poverty. And yeah, I totally agree with a lot of people on the show that says having that 0.7% is fine. I'm more than happy with that, and we need to find a better way of getting that money to the people that needs it. That's always going to be an issue no matter how much we give. But yeah, I don't agree with cutting it at all. No, I don't agree with cutting it. All that's doing is exactly doing the same on a global basis as what the Tories have been doing within our country for the past 7 years. And we shouldn't fall into that trap, because that's what the Tory party loves. They love that greedy, selfish behaviour. And I don't want to go down that road. So I don't agree with that. It's just wrong. And it's an easy way of seeing that there's a lot of money that we could take easy. And I just think, no, that's wrong. If we need to be a credible country on the international stage now we're leaving Brexit. Well, we're leaving the EU. So that would show that we're still a compassionate country and we will do the right thing. So it shouldn't be cut. If anything, I agree with the Green Party bloke. I will confess I am more Green Party than I am any of the others. I would agree with him putting it up to 1%. It would help us. It would give us a lot of leniency. Even though we can't benefit directly from that aid, it will show the rest of the country that you don't have to keep cutting to be wealthy. I just don't agree with cutting that at all. So I'll move on to the last question, which is question number 4 now.
Tuition fees be free for all students?
Should tuition fees be free for...
Sorry, I forgot to turn off the mic again. Oh dear. Right, tuition fees. Isn't it funny how the term for business is, we need the investment, we need the investment. For private businesses, it's always spun to the public as, we're getting investment in, we're getting investment in. Then on the other side, when it comes to investing into people, they cut it. School is an investment. It's not. It should never have been turned into a cost. And to be honest with you, I think this comes directly from the banking industry. The banking industry pushed governments into turning some areas into a cost as opposed to an investment. And I think, again, Jeremy Corbyn, even though I'm not supporting Jeremy Corbyn, I support his policies, but for my own reason, I can't support the party because half of them hates him and they will just stab him in the back all the time. But I would, out of the two, Jeremy or Theresa May, or Tory or Labour, I would have to go with Labour because it's like picking the worst out of the two, really, isn't it? Well, the least worst out of the two. But yeah, I just think learning was turned into a cost. As soon as you put fees into university and young people, that's what makes me laugh also. You've got 17-year-olds that's going to be in debt upwards of £40,000, and then you get the Prime Minister today turning around and saying, oh, well, I think it should stay 80. I'm sorry. If young people are being forced into debt of up to £40,000, I think they should have a right, a really strong damn right to vote. So I would also bring that down to 16. But I don't think it should have never been a cost. It's an investment into the country, just like any other investment from the private sector. You know, learning and getting our people learning, and the most important thing is I wouldn't just let it be free for the whole. You know, I would look at what courses the country needs, and then say, right, okay, these courses would be free. I would not cover some courses that, you know, are like just stupidity. They won't. Somebody getting a degree in something like pop music or something like that, and you know, I would only look at it as like the area that the country needs. So like a lot of IT courses, manufacturing, even though our manufacturing base is, well, a disaster really, because this country don't make anything anymore. We just rely on the bank of it, on the banking industry to bring in the money, which is what a lot of the problems that is in this country. But we need to start turning that around, and I think the first thing, turning the cost, getting rid of the fees, because as someone said, the government don't know how many people's going to be able to pay it back. So essentially, all this cost and all this administration is costing taxpayers money. So, you know, we're still paying for it anyway, just that we're getting a reimbursement in the long term from the people that can afford to pay. And as that young woman in the audience sounded a bit upset because she couldn't get a job in what she's got a degree in, you know, she's in a position now where she ain't paying nothing back, which is kind of like a good thing. But then at the same time, she still knows if she ever gets into a high paying job, that will kick in and she'd have to start paying it back. I don't agree with it. No, learning is an investment, and the government should be talking. They're always talking about investing into the economy. Well, part of the economy is teaching young people and the people that wants to learn to move up. And you know, I agree that it should be free, but only in courses that would directly benefit the country. I wouldn't do it for, you know, like English, math, you know, all those basic ones would be free. If people wants to move into those higher educational areas, science, all the main ones would be free. But I would question some of the other alternatives that are a bit way out there myself. I would question ones that hasn't got no direct benefit to the country. I think they should continue to be some kind of payment system there, but people would be free to go for the main ones, which is IT, science, maths, English. Those ones are the ones that should be free, so people could go to them free, no debt whatsoever. But yeah, whether that's going to happen, I can't see it myself. Jeremy said he would make it free, so if he did become Prime Minister, then he would have to do that. But if he got into a coalition, they could both use each other as excuses, can't they? Oh, well, we can't do that because we're in a coalition. So, you know, really, until we know which party is in government, we've just got to take their word for it, which politicians' words don't mean much nowadays, really, because they can change it when they're in power. So, but as it stands at the moment, I feel Jeremy would do what he says. So, you know, that's it for today. Yeah, until next time, people. Ta-da.